USA gets the win, and it wasn't even close. There was a big enough lead built between legs 1, 2, and 3 that the odds of even a Sharika Jackson closing in on Sha'Carri was just, it wasn't going to happen. Even Sharika running, it was a 100-meter dash. It wasn't a 4x2. It was a 4x1. Sha'Carri's a world champion. She's going to be able to hold off a 5-meter lead on Sharika. And they ran quick. They ran 41:03. I think I saw it's like top 5 time ever. Championship record, I believe, maybe potentially. Yeah. Is it a championship record? I don't know. Probably a championship record.
I'm not sure.
Because most of the top times are being run at the Olympics. But yeah, USA with a very different team from last year, right? I mean, only Tanisha Terry was the holdover from last year's win, right? And so they replace 2 of their legs for the final. They put Gabby on the 3rd leg. They put Sha'Carri on the anchor. They keep their first 2 legs the same. And this was mainly done in that first, like, Sha'Carri just had to like walk across the finish line. Like, this was not Sha'Carri saving the team, coming back. Like, this was all done in those first 3 legs. They got it done well. Tamari Davis to Tanisha Terry. Tanisha Terry had a phenomenal 2nd leg.
Oh,
and then
yes.
Gabby just being able to maintain that lead, and then Sha'Carri is like, it's over. What was your thoughts on the way it played out, that this Jamaican team, which didn't have Elaine Thompson-Herah for some reason, wasn't able to really even challenge USA?
Yeah. And I think, when we were talking about the 4x1s earlier this week, I was like, I don't know if, the U.S. can pull out this win, especially with just the powerhouses that are living in Jamaica right now. But I want to give a huge shout out to TT Terry and Gabby Thomas, who I felt like those 2 individual women, like, really put USA in the mix. And, during that first exchange, you got a little nervous there. Like, TT Terry had to hold her hand back, and like the incoming runner had to physically grab her hand and stick the baton in it, and then she was able to go. But TT Terry against Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, like, held her own. I even think made up, some of the stagger. It was fantastic. And then when Gabby Thomas got that stick, Gordon, it was just like lights out. Gabby Thomas was not messing around. I think that was a great position for her to be in. I know I talked about her potentially being second, but her on that curve was just fantastic. And kind of like what you said, like, Sha'Carri Richardson just had to do her. She didn't have to catch anybody. It was just make sure Sharika Jackson doesn't close, and she was able to hold off the gold medalist in that 200. So I thought it was a well put together relay. 41:03 for the victory. Great Britain coming in 3rd. And I know you had bets on Ivory Coast medaling, and unfortunately they did not finish that race. So hard.
Great Britain.
Hard hit there.
Dina Asher-Smith didn't run. So that was like, hey, maybe there's an opening for someone to take that 3rd spot if Great Britain's not running a fully 100% team. But they still got it done, running sub 42 seconds. Jamaica still ran well. They ran 41-2. So it wasn't like Jamaica put out like a stinker. But Jamaica can run faster than that. You have to – I think there's just like maybe this is just like the end of the dominant era of women, Jamaican women, because last year they sweep. They go 1, 2, 3. Elaine Thompson-Herah doesn't have the best season. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, while running well, she says she's not 100%. And, she's going into her final global championship next year, most likely. So you just feel like you see more, like Sha'Carri is now coming onto the scene. Gabby Thomas is back healthy and in her prime. I mean, Tamari Davis is super young and one of the just like wide-eyed, like, hey, I'm now at this level. Like, and Tanisha Terry has that experience. I just feel like this may be a little bit of a changing of the guard between Jamaica and U.S. on the women's side, sprint-wise. USA won the 100.
That.
They won the 4x1. They won last year's 4x1. It's starting. I don't know. Yes.
I'm right there with you. Like, it's interesting because Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce is going to be 37 in Paris next year. It's probably going to be her last championship.
Yep.
And it's Sharika Jackson and Elaine Thompson. Brianna Williams, I want to kind of throw in the mix. I know she's been dealing with some injuries as well. She's been on this team for Jamaica ever since like she was in high school. So she's like one of those top athletes. But like, I wonder who the next, grown crop is going to be coming from Jamaica. And like you said, we have all these upcoming stars on the US that it's just like they're already showcasing dominance right now. So, and they're still young.
Yeah, I
So
just
yeah, I
think
think we're
that
starting to see a little shift here.
Jamaica was really top heavy with their big three, with Sharika,
Mhm.
Shelly-Ann, and Elaine Thompson-Herah. And when one of them is hurt and another one is basically soon retiring, you have to think that they got to start replenishing their top dogs quickly. And, are people like, is a Natasha Morrison or Forbes or Brianna Williams, they're not really making big impacts at the Diamond League level. Like it's all just been Jackson, Fraser Price, Elaine Thompson-Herah. Jackson, Fraser Price, Elaine Thompson-Herah. So where on the American side, yes, you have Sha'Carri doing her thing, but you're seeing dabbles of different women coming in. Leah Hobbs, she's not even here. We know what she can do. You see what a healthy Abby Steiner is going to be able to do when she's back into it next year. Gabby Thomas. You go on and on. It's not just Richardson and everybody else. So I think this may be, you looked at last year as a weird upset, like, whoa, how did USA win? Now that they went back-to-back years, you're like, they probably should be the favorite in Paris. Like Jamaica should not be the favorite in Paris. It should be USA. Back-to-back, back-to-back fast times. It's got to be US.
Yeah. Is Jamaica in trouble as a whole? Like, think about it.
No.
Like, when Usain Bolt was running, right? Like, you had Usain Bolt, Johan Blake, Asafa Powell. Like, you had those three dominant men. They finish, third in the 4x1. Seville is doing his thing. But one person can't essentially bring a whole team.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's good and bad to having truly dominant factors, for having like an Asafa Powell, Usain Bolt, Johan Blake era. Because when you're good, it is great. It is glorious and you dominate for 5 to 10 years. But when that is gone, you look at Jamaican men sprinting right now, they're not relevant. Yes, you have Oblique Seville doing good things, but back-to-back years, he gets fourth and he's still young, and no one is looking at Oblique Seville the same way you look at a Noah Lyles or a Fred Curley or a Christian Coleman. So it's just, it's good when it's good, but then when it's over, you realize you kind of been carried by superstars as opposed to being carried by depth. Now, US, on the other hand, though, has a lot of depth, but sometimes no superstars. Not anymore because Noah Lyles is a superstar, but there's a negative to also having no superstars because you can drop the baton a lot. You're always in it, but always coming up second. Always in it, but always second. So there's some good and bad to be having a superstar heavy roster versus a depth heavy roster. They both have their pros and cons, but it's going to be interesting to see what Jamaica does these next 2 years on the women's side specifically, because you had Sharika Jackson, Shelly, and Fraser Price. Like, Tamari Davis and Gabrielle Thomas are not world beaters in the 100. So you look at like superstars, you could argue USA had one and Sha'Carri, and Jamaica had two and Shelly and Sharika. Two should be better than one. Natasha Morrison and Forbes should have canceled out Tamari Davis and Tanisha Terry, but I don't know. Anyway, congrats to USA though. Congrats. Let's talk about the men. The men got it done. They got the baton around. Woo! Remind me of 2019 Doha, where like, hey, you're the best team on the track. You should win if you just get the job done. They got to stick around. They didn't really get it around clean, but
no,
they got it around.
They did not.
So
they got it around, which was what is important.
Yeah. there just wasn't enough a team that was in their vicinity to make those stumbles affect the final result. But now Noah Lyles pulled off the triple. There's going to be pressure on him to do it at the Olympic level because it's going to be a different dynamic, more people, more heightened element. But he's going to be the favorite to pull off the triple. Team USA will be the favorite in the 4x1 next year. He's going to be the favorite in the 1, the favorite in the 2. It's all lining up for him to have an incredible Paris. But Otto Bolden, I thought, did a good job at saying, like, hey, Coleman needs to always be leadoff and Lyles needs to always be anchor. There was it's on Coleman and Lyles to make the team, right? To be top 4, top 6, whatever. But I do think there is something special about Coleman knowing my role is leadoff man and Lyles knowing my role is anchor man. You could argue maybe Fred Curley should be like, my role is backstretch. I think Coleman, Curley, and Lyles, they should be on the team next year and the year after, and it's just interchanging who that third leg is going to be. In this situation, it was Brandon Carnes.
Mm-hmm. And you know how, like, Allison Felix pretty much had that backstretch on lockdown? That's what it needs to be moving forward. Christian Coleman, Fred Curley, Noah Lyles. Like, Christian Coleman, I feel like should not be removed as leadoff. Like, I do not care what kind of season he is having. He should be leading off the men's 4x1. He did an exceptional, fantastic job putting US in a great position. And then Fred Curley doing Fred Curley things. And, Noah Lyles just needed the stick. And then at that point, no one's taking down the world champion. So, yeah, as Allison Felix did on that backstretch, those 3 men should have their positions locked down.
Yeah. Italy impressed with the second place finish, beating Jamaica. Very surprised that they were able to pull that off. They were thrilled to get second. Jamaica still gets a medal in third. But a team of Akeem Blake, Oblique Seville, Raheem Ford, and Rohan Watson, that team should be running faster. That team should be running 37-4. That team should be challenging USA for the win. They shouldn't be beating USA, but they should be neck and neck with USA when they get to the final 25, 50 meters. Because Seville and Blake, they're like 9'8" guys. And Ford and Watson, 9'9", like they had the talent to. This is a disappointing finish, I think, for Jamaica. I mean, at the end of the day, you got a medal, but Jamaica should not be losing to Italy. Jamaica should be, running much better. It's a weird year. I thought more from Seville and Blake would happen this season, but Blake didn't even make the team. Seville got 4th in the 100. I don't know. I think Jamaica could have done better.
I agree. No, it's just
Japan,
tough. It's kind of like what we were just talking about before.
Go. What you said?
No, I'm just saying, like, it was just kind of like what we were discussing about before. Like, who are these upcoming stars now for Jamaica? Are they really in trouble? Like, their performances that they have done individually does not equal what they could have done on a 4x1.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Japan, I put money on. They got 5th. I thought they would medal. I listened to the chat. Someone in the chat said, put money on Japan to medal. I did. And I agreed. $100. So there goes that. I'm never listening to the chat again. You can blame me.
No. Don't blame the chat. I agreed, though. I was in the back of my mind. I was like, I think Japan can do something. And the thing is, the anchor leg was closing. It just.
He was. They said.
I was watching Japan. I was like, come on, get that medal. They were closing. Yeah. They were coming down that home stretch strong, but was not enough.
How do you think Coleman and Curley feel winning this gold and like kind of being a part of Noah Lyles' triple? Coleman, as you know, in 2019, world champion. He then, obviously had the whereabouts fair thing, misses the Olympics, but comes back and has yet to get back onto the medal stage individually. Curley, defending world champion, doesn't even make the final this year. So the past 2 world champions are on this team, and then Noah Lyles, the current world champion, the current 200 champion, and now wins the triple. It's got to be weird for Curly and Coleman to be like celebrate with Noah Lyles, because they wanted to be the Noah Lyles of 2023. Like, that's what Curly wanted. Curly wanted to win the 1 and the 2 and the 4x1. Coleman wanted to win the 1 and the 4x1. And I'm sure it's a little bittersweet to like celebrate with your competition, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be weird.
Oh, it definitely is. It definitely is. But I think when you're lining up on that relay, you have to put those feelings aside. Like, you're coming together as a unit. Like, I've had the honor of running on one USA team on a relay, and like it's just insane because these are your competitors at the same time, but you're like, hey, we need to come together as one. And as long as I have a spot on that team and I can wear USA across my chest and represent and potentially earn a medal, then we got to put the feelings aside. But yeah, it's definitely a bittersweet moment to line up with your competitors and be like, okay, well, let's be teammates for, 41 seconds.
I know.
40 seconds,
For 30 to 45 seconds. Yeah.
30. Yeah, exactly.
It is weird.
Maybe, teammates for a moment.
Teammates for a moment, then we're not teammates anymore. Like, how long do they celebrate together until they're like, I don't care anymore? Like, there's probably a group chat.
Like, don't care about what? You think so? You think there's a group chat?
You think
I don't
the 4x1's
know.
in a group chat? You don't think they're in a group chat? No?
Maybe for like relay purposes, but I don't think they have one specifically for like, let's chat it up.
Well, here's the thing.
Guys, gals, like, let's start our own group. I don't think it's like that. I definitely think it's for relay purposes of just like communication, not let's be friends.
When they're friends now because they're competing on the same team. But when do they like, all right, I'm done celebrating this 4x1 victory? Is it like tonight, or do they at least go, or is it like as soon as they get on the team bus and they're like, all right, we're not.
I think for tonight. I think, because it's the second to last day. I think they'll be fine through tomorrow, and then as soon as they're on that plane back to the US, and back to competitors.